who was it?
Okay, sure.
Arnie, James, that said, are you ready to talk to 5 people? So we've definitely got more than 5 people. I have one here. Arnie has been so gracious to host us. You want the mic, or do you think it's...
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what we can do? Yeah, and I think passing it around to people will probably help, be more helpful. So that's probably what we'll do. And turn off my phone. Of course, Ruby doesn't listen to the instructions. So let's get the show underway. Arnie, I'm going to turn it over to you as the host.
Welcome, everybody. We're here with Alex Balekian, candidate for Congress. It's conversation with the community. So tonight, our future Congress member, and any feel free to ask the questions you may have regarding the future, the present, the challenges we face as Americans, as citizens, as Angelinos, and he's here. He's for you. He's here to answer any question you may have. Alex, welcome.
Thank you, Arnie. So Arnie's a great example of how we are going to be successful. This is an everyman, right? An everyday person, a citizen of the people, who is saying, okay, this is how I'm going to help this movement, and this is how we're going to do this. And this first of several community conversations with the community is meant to do several things. Number one, familiarize you with people in your neighborhood. Show you that there are people just as upset as you, that things have deteriorated, that the city we know that we grew up in, the Golden State, is now a rusted brown. So that's number one. Number two, is just to get things off your chest and to explain the process. Again, I did high school civics, yes, I know, branches of government and elections and things, but we oftentimes don't know where to invest this energy, this upset of ours. So a second goal of these conversations is going to be educating people about, okay, what is a federal issue, what is a local issue, what is a state issue, and if you have grievances, where can you go, how can you be most productive with your energy, okay? So with that, and again, this is going to be very, very, people coming in, welcome. Don't forget to sign in. This is going to be very non-formal, maybe informal. I'm going to turn it over to you all. Talk about whatever you want to talk about, okay? And then we just kind of get it off our chest. The only thing I ask is please introduce yourself, okay? And where you live, okay? Who wants to go first? Anybody?
We can start. Good evening, Patrick Murphy, Lockwood Center, spokesperson for the Tujunga Wash Neighborhoods Coalition and SaveTheWash.com. I do have one question I'd like to ask you, and that is, how would you have voted on the aid package that passed in the House last week and in the Senate on Tuesday?
Excellent question. So the question you didn't hear was, how would I have voted on the aid package? The aid package, I think, being 4 things. There was Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and I forget what the last thing was, but there were 4 things that were being voted. So it's going to be a complicated answer. First and foremost, I am all about balanced budgets. I am all about term limits. I think this government that should have been an extension of us has now taken on a life of its own, and I think that we need to take it back. We would all be better off if we treated this country like we treat our own households, run it on a budget, and with minimal outside interference. When the founding fathers started this country, they had single subject spending bills. They would argue or debate each one individually. Then right around the time of Reconstruction after the Civil War, when they needed to get everything going, then they had what was called an omnibus bill, where you throw everything in there and you vote yea or nay. And the problem with that is you say, okay, I'm going to give $2 billion to kids with cancer. Would you like to do that? Yes. I'm also going to give $500 million to weapons manufacturers. I'm going to give $1 billion to the Houthi rebels in Saudi Arabia. I'm going to give $200 million to this special interest. Do you vote yes or no? And you're going to say, hang on a minute. No, I vote no. God, Patrick, you are so crass. You don't want to give sick children with cancer $2 billion? And that's how it happens. So I'm all for single subject spending bills. I think the government is bloated. I want to earn more than we spend. So in answer to your question, I would have voted no on Ukraine aid. We've given enough. Okay. For Israel, I think it's young enough in that we can still see where it's going, and they can justify us every 3 months what they want to do. I would also say that I think we should focus all of our tax money and stuff on 3 things: health, wealth, and security of our own citizens first. Did that answer your question?
In a roundabout way, it did.
Okay. I mean, I just want to, what I want to do is, I want to tell you my ideals and my guiding principles. My guiding principles are, first and foremost, the Constitution, right? And again, our government should be here to ensure health, wealth, and security of its own citizens. So that is how I would vote on things, and if we're in a budget deficit, I would say let's cut the spending, let's prioritize things that focus on our health, wealth, and security before we spend money on other things.
So this is somewhat related.
Your name is Philip.
My name is Philip. I live 1 mile that way. There was another recent legislation that was passed on wiretapping of Americans. I've asked versions of this question to other people who have run for office, and they give me answers, and they have sometimes voted in the same way as the answers, sometimes not. So I'm going to ask a slightly different spin on this question. So the first part is, after a few years, you have the opportunity to vote on something like this. Second part is, what would change your mind? How would you to cause you to vote differently, and how you would tell us how you're going to vote?
So what Philip was saying, so there was recently an extension, I forget what it's called, RISA, I think it was. Essentially, it's government wiretapping the phones and the conversations of its own citizens with the goal of finding terrorist plots early and being able to prevent them. Okay? I am a constitutionalist. I am all about privacy. I would have voted no. Okay? There is due process that is laid out by the Constitution. We have a right to privacy. It is incumbent upon the Justice Department to say, I think Philip is down to something sinister because of A, B, C, D. Present that to a judge, and if the judge says, yes, you have due cause, then yes, go ahead and wiretap his phone. Then at least you went through the due process of abridging your privacy. But me, no. Okay, I would have voted no against that, no warrantless wiretaps. There is a process, it's been laid out in the Constitution. We should follow that process, because first and foremost, those 10 rights, the Bill of Rights, right, that is what we thrive on as Americans, that is what defines us and unifies us. So I would not vote in any way, shape, or form to restrict that Bill of Rights. And I also wanted to introduce over here Tony Rodriguez. He's running for Assembly, okay? So in this district over here, so he wants to represent you in Sacramento. Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but you think exactly as I do on that question about privacy and rights, correct?
Absolutely. Well, you said about constitutional, right?
Yes.
We believe in the Constitution, and we have a right, the government doesn't run us, we run them. We've allowed them to do it for so long, it's time to take it back. And Alex is gonna be part of that, because we're gonna get him elected in the federal seat where we need him, and then we'll fight our battle around districts out here.
So yeah, I think Vivek Ramaswamy said it well. He said, for the United States, the greatest country in the world, the Declaration of Independence is our mission statement, and the Constitution is our instruction manual.
Wow.
Right? And I think that's a great way to sum it up. We have an instruction manual. We don't change the rules. There is a process of how you change the rules with an amendment, a constitutional amendment. We follow those, but we don't abridge rights willy-nilly just because it suits us in that moment.
And how would you change your mind, or what would cause you to change your mind? Because I've heard this answer before from other public servants.
Right, so when that instruction manual, the Constitution changes with a new amendment that says, you know, people don't have the right to privacy, which manages to pass with 2/3 of both houses and ratified by 3/4 of the states, then I would say, okay, let's follow it. But until it's gone through that process, we respect the Bill of Rights, we respect privacy, and if it says that you must obtain a warrant to abridge those, and that's the due process, that is what we follow, and I will follow it. Please, Rita.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be really interested in the residents. My interest lies with point number 3. Power should be held by household and families, not by government. How would you remedy that point?
Okay.
How would you return the power to the families to make decisions for their own household members, for their own children, and so on and so forth?
Okay. I mean, again, I think government intrusion is a big problem. And so, within our 4 walls, how we manage our own family, how we make our own decisions, so long as we abide by the laws, you should not come into our household and tell us how to run our lives.
Yes.
And someone asked me, oh, when you go to Congress, what's the first law that you're going to write? We have enough laws. We have enough laws. What I want to do is find the unnecessary ones that burden our daily lives and start peeling them back. I mean, in California, God, there are so many environmental regulations, excess environmental regulations that I want to roll back. So what I would do is I would say, okay, what kinds of laws are abridging people's lives? What kinds of things are intruding there? And then we say, okay, let's bring this up, let's go ahead and repeal those laws and bring back the power. You know, the 10th, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution says any power that is not granted to the federal government is the power is the purview of the states, the state governments. And any law that the state government doesn't have is under the purview of the household, right? You run it like you want. Sure. Mr. Mohel. Feel free to say unexpected. This beats out most Armenian mortgages, like I said, with your spread. So, very good.
Well, I'm all about finances. And right now, like the city of Glendale, we're underwater. So is the federal government. And as far as I see, we need to spend zero money on anything because we can't afford it.
Right.
I mean, we have a pension debt in California, Glendale, and so does the federal government. How do we move forward at the same time pay off your debt? Because what's happening is that I think it was the time when Nixon went off the gold standard. That's when everybody said, okay, we can spend money,
Right.
and we can have our children and our grandchildren pay for our debt.
Right.
Now it's children, grandchildren, 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 and grandchildren, and grandchildren.
Right.
So that the young kid in the way to the corner, I'm gonna say, thank you for paying off my debt. That's the reality.
Yep.
So how do you balance the idea that you need to pay off all that debt to the next generation or 3, at the same time you need to have new wars every week? And the present president has already had us in World War III. They won't call it that, but that's what it is. You have all these wars going on. So that's a loaded question.
So what I would do is this. I don't know who it was that said, oh, if you have this glass and you fill it with boulders, and then you fill it with pebbles, and then you fill it with sand. First, let's work on the boulders. Okay, so what are the biggest costs in the federal budget right now? Top are Social Security and Medicare. Those benefit us. Remember I said health, wealth, and security, right? So Social Security and Medicare, don't touch those. If you're going to cut stuff, leave that at the very bottom of the list. Okay? Then there is defense. Yes, defense is a big part of our budget, but again, health, wealth, and security. Our security, not the $850 billion that we're sending to NATO every year, right? We're sending hundreds of millions of dollars to Turkey, which held us for ransom with F-16 fighter jets, is saying, I will attack you if you do X, Y, Z against the Palestinians. That is not an ally of ours. So there are a lot of areas of waste where I would not cut Social Security and Medicare. I would not cut defense that benefits us. Next is interest on the debt. Right. That's a big one, okay? So how are you going to do that? You have a non-deficit budget. So I can't affect those payments. I'm not going to default, right? What happens when we default on the loan? Our credit goes to hell, okay? And so other things that I would do, one thing that we could do on several different levels is what I recommend that Glendale does and the state does and the federal government does. Pensions are not sustainable. This is why private companies that don't have the benefits of printing their own money and taxing people got rid of them. Yes, they were considered greedy, but for their own survival, they had to do it. So what I would recommend is new employees for the federal government, don't give them a pension, give them a 401k like all private employees have. Existing employees who have pensions, some of our union workers, okay, you can't screw them over by changing the goalposts from the contract that they initially signed. So what you say is, okay, I'm going to buy you out of your pension. You negotiate a fair price of what it is and convert it to a 401k, where they then have complete control. Yes, there's going to be a large upfront cost, okay? But like my father used to say to my mother, it costs so much to be this cheap. Because if you do, the pension stuff now, then eventually later on, it's going to be higher. Our pension,
Debt.
yes. So that's what I would do, make sure balanced budget, but also buy people out of their pensions. Change it over.
The third savings plan is already in place.
Ask that again, please.
So you mentioned one of the government employees that work for 401k like system. They're
Yeah.
already on the third savings plan. How's that different?
So the federal government has multiple different programs for multiple different people. For example, the armed services have one type. I was applying for a VA job once upon a time, and there's a different type. So it's not uniform across the different departments. So I can't speak to exactly what that thrift savings account is, but I think we need, private corporations thrive because they run things efficiently. So if they have a retirement system that works for the employees and retains them, why not recreate that in the federal government, right? And then use that example and give people that opportunity. That said, other things that I want to do with 401k, I'm sure somebody's going to talk about affordability and whatnot. I want to change the 401k laws, and I want to have it that every person can access the entirety of their 401k without penalty and without taxes, provided that they use that money to buy a home. The American dream for the middle class and for class mobility, we don't do stocks, we don't do bonds, homes, property, right? You buy your home, you pay it off, and pass it on to your kids. So what I would like is for everybody to have a 401k where they manage their own money, and if they want to withdraw it and purchase a property rather than allowing some hedge fund manager at BlackRock or with Vanguard to manage it for them. No, this is our money, we want to do what we want to do. So that is one thing that I would do with 401ks, put everyone on 401k and then have them use it to buy home.
Politically, LA County has been implementing since 2013 401k in conjunction with pension. However, the new employees hired after 2013 are paying their own pension.
Right. So they're trying to limit it because they know, but that is not enough. I think, and also just we need to standardize it. So what we need to do is, I think we need to just buy out the current employees from their pensions. because that's going to limit our pension liabilities in the future. Other questions? In the back there.
I was just gonna mention on that PERF savings, I'm a retired postal employee, so I had the PERF saving and a pension civil service, because I'm pre-1984. Hirees after 84 did not get that pension, but they had matching funds for the TSP, and they got Social Security, which I do not, because I didn't work 40 hours as a kid. So my pension is decent, I got like 60% of my pay. Got a brother-in-law, I love him, retired GPD. He was probably making well over 100 grand, and he's pulling 90% of that in retirement. So I think if you're making that kind of money, you're gonna be able to fund that 401k a lot better than the average Joe. You know, we were both kind of blue collar, and his job was a lot more aggravation than mine, but yeah, the TSP, you could have both of them. Some employees got a small postal, pension, not a full one. I'm getting the equivalent of what I got on Social Security, but this is bankrupting. Didn't San Bernardino go bankrupt over all the CalPERS payments and?
I lost track, but yes, that's the problem, is if the city goes bankrupt, then yes, they would have to pay their liabilities, but who wants to do that?
Yeah, there's a lot of fat to cut, but there's no incentive to cut it if you're spending tax dollars.
Right.
And with this city council, in particular, they're doing a lot of things we're not real happy with. And
Which city council? Which
Glendale.
Glendale, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're in Los Angeles, and I forgot, yeah. But, we add them all to the list. I had just an apocryphal story. I had a guy driving the wrong way, going through stoplights, all the way from Washington Avenue to here, and down Stone Boulevard. I called 911. They never did anything with it. It was 15 minutes to connect. So what are we getting for our tax money? So, sorry I went off on a tangent, but that was the 401k thing for the government.
And again, we have some union people here who are not going to like this. So
Any other person.
well, what I was going to say is, I don't believe that public sector unions should be able to sway the outcomes of elections.
Right.
Because, right, so for example, the example that I give is the United Auto Workers. They are a private sector union.
Right.
They're a private sector union. They don't control the pay or how you select the CEO of Ford, for example. So if there's going to be, hang on, Rita. We're not going to go off on this tangent because you're also not going to persuade me. We are in this problem because everybody kicks the can down the road. And we unfortunately have very public labor union, pro-public labor union politicians who were elected by very powerful public union lobbies. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. They're not playing with their own money, they're playing with our money. So that's one of the things that I would try to go for. Yes, Ruby?
So I want to tell you, in Glendale, before 2000, our pension obligation was $183 million. Today, it's hitting $1 billion.
Whoa.
Okay, $1 billion, and they're going to cut this in April.
Right.
What are they going to do? They
Increase taxes, that's the.
Yeah, and they're introducing 5 new taxes. You sell your house, you're going to pay higher taxes.
Yep.
You don't rent your house more than 30 days, you're going to pay taxes, even though you haven't rented.
Right.
So they're introducing 5 new taxes because we have an unsustainable pension obligation. Police and fire, when they retire, after 30 years of service, they make 90% of their last salary. Management makes 75%. Social Security, the maximum Social Security, you can make only $36,000 if you're Bill Gates. So it's unsustainable.
It's unsustainable.
Like you said, we should buy them out.
Right.
And, people who work for the government, they're not going to be happy, but we got to think as a society,
Right.
what's best for us and as a society, not for me.
Raise your hands if you realize that your property taxes are about to go up in November.
Yeah, a lot.
Right. So, start spreading the word here. I don't know what the proposition is called yet, but it was called ACA 1. That's the name of the bill that was passed in California legislature in November. And that allows them to put this proposition, we'll call it, I don't know, proposition, election, I don't know, on the November ballots. It will gut Prop 13. It will allow city and county governments more exceptions to increase your property taxes than just the school board exception, okay? And also, instead of a 66% majority. They only need a 55% majority to pass this. Do you think the local governments will take them up on this newfound ability to raise your taxes? Yes. Laura Friedman is an author of that bill. Right? So these, and did anybody see 2 days ago, Joe Biden said that he would like to increase in 2025 the capital gains tax to 42%. Right. Now it's anywhere between 10 and 20%. He wants to increase to 42%. And this is for anything over $1 million. Who has a house here that they might be able to sell? Right, then it's over $1 million, right? And this is also if you, for example, are gifted. It doesn't correct for inflation. So if your parents bought a house in La Crescenta for $50,000 50 years ago, and now it's worth $1.5 million, and they paid it off and it passes to you, you will now pay 42% of that tax, in addition to your income tax. Do you think Laura Friedman will vote yes for Joe Biden's plan to raise your taxes in 2025? Yes. Right. So this is going, and there are people that say, well, I'm not in your district. This is everybody. Right? ACA on that proposition, that is statewide. Joe Biden's increase in capital gains tax, that is nationwide. Do you think this open seat, if occupied by spending addicted Laura Friedman, do you think this open seat, she will vote for that tax increase?
Yeah.
Absolutely she will. She won't even hesitate.
Can you tell us all the tax, here you go, this is a good thing. Take Laura Friedman's position, whatever it is, and contrast it with whatever you would do. That's a good way back and forth.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned that tax, anything else?
I mean, we know what she's done. She says, I like to look at things through a climate lens. And I like to look at things through a climate lens. So climate change is a very great pie-in-the-sky idea that nobody can really describe because there are no agreed-upon outcomes. But they can say, oh, we're doing this for climate change. For the last 40 or 50 years that Al Gore has championed things for climate change. What are they telling us to do now? They want us to do more. Haven't we done enough? The American Lung Association recently gave California counties, LA counties, a failing grade on their ozone particles. And they say we need to do more. I'm a lung specialist. Right? I'm a lung specialist. There is not an epidemic. Actually, also California, they want to ban gas stoves, and they want to make everything electric because of indoor air pollutants. I'm a lung specialist. There is not an epidemic of children and adults being hospitalized and dropping dead because of uncontrolled asthma. In fact, California's asthma hospitalization rate is 30% lower than the national rate. So yes, you tell me the ozone particles in the air. What is the patient-centered outcome that we're looking at? So my whole thing is, I love the clean air, I love the clean water. Yes, Laura can look at things through a climate lens. I look at things with data, with measurable outcomes. And do I want the air quality to get bad enough that our asthma hospitalization rates increase? Absolutely not. But our asthma hospitalization rates from year to year, something that we can follow. To say that we are going to roll back all of these excessive, expensive, cumbersome environmental regulations, but we're going to keep an eye on asthma hospitalization rates. And if those increase by 10%, which is what we consider clinically significant in medicine, if those increase by 10%, we will put the brakes on. We will go back to the last step. That is how we need to look at things. If we're going to be asked to do more, they need to show more of what that's achieving.
So on that note, Alex, so-called green technology, the solar panels,
Yes.
they're not disposable. California hires a company,
Right.
they can only take two samples out of the solar panel, the rest it gets dumped in Arizona,
Right.
okay? 2 weeks ago, Texas had hail, they had a bunch of fields of solar panel, they got cracked.
Yeah.
The water, the underneath water got polluted. So, so-called green technology, it is not green.
Right.
The other thing I want to tell you, Glendale, we have blackouts every year during the summer. And we have I don't want to tell you like this, but we have a council person who wants only electric, all the new buildings being built. infrastructure, GWD that does not even have the meter. 4 years ago, they could have bought 3 generators for $58 million. Today, they're buying, the same generator, he postponed because he did not understand that those generators 4 years ago can turn into hydrogen 100%. We don't have hydrogen, now it's coming to the pipeline. But our generators cost more than $500 million today. And that's the reason they raised our electrical rates by July of this year. We're going to pay 59% more than we were paying a year ago. So I just want to let you know what I'm an engineer, so I know those things very well. It is not green, and that's where we should have choices, gas, or whatever the case might be. But don't ever think that electric, those batteries are not disposable.
So this is where messaging comes in. The average person, you're an engineer, you're a math nerd like me. The average person's eyes are going to glaze over when you start talking about renewable energy, things of that sort. So this is where messaging is important, and this is where we have to get our words simplified so that people don't understand. We have done more. They're asking us to do more. Still, haven't we done enough? And that is what we need to focus on, is a simple message that everybody can understand, that will bring people out, because we can sit here and spin our wheels as much as we want, but if people aren't coming and getting engaged and voting, okay, this is why we're going to do this regularly, all right, just so it builds, so the momentum builds. Tony, you had a question?
Yeah, a caveat to you, the wind turbines, right, they're not recyclable. So once they go bad, they get junked into a trash bin. In Hawaii, they had a huge problem, and I know that for a fact because I'm friends with Senator Gallagher, and they're just dumping them on the ocean. Right? So people don't, they sound good that they're wind turbines, but once they go bad, you can't fix them, and you can't recycle them. So how is that helping the environment? It's just a money grab. And the other thing I want to caveat, when we talk about taxes, Burbank is about to pass a partial fee, not a tax, a partial fee to property owners in Burbank to pay for their school system. Not a tax, a fee, so that means city council, Nick Schultz, graduate from World Freedom Academy, is going to approve that. And it's happening in every city. We need to be more engaged and more involved. And Alex is right. We have to give the message out to everybody and simplify the message. Not with all the mathematics and all that. This is reality. This is what's really happening. What are we going to do to stop it? And like Alex is right, we need to vote. We need to vote. If they're not doing their job, just like in any organization, we get fired. Right? We need to start firing our politicians. If they're not doing what we're asking them to do, then they need to go away. We need to find somebody else.
I think there was a Babylon that said, political parties recycle old presidential candidates for 2024 election. Talk about renewables.
That's a good one.
Hi, my name is Frida. But the question here is, we all talk about our issues we have, we all in the same city. How do we get people to vote? I mean, we have a terrible, what's the turnout? Voter turnout rate? It's like 20%. Every one of us, I mean, I appreciate that you're courageous about you're doing this. It takes a lot from your personal life, from your profession. But what are you asking of us? I mean, obviously, every one of us donate or whatever financially, but more than that, what can we do? Individual, we're 20, 30 people here. If every one of us bring 10 more people next time around, I mean, we have to do as much as you're doing. So what are you asking us?
So what I'm asking is, again, just your network. This is exactly this is the precise definition of grassroots. There's a physical connection, right? And then we just kind of go under the ground and just very organically. So I would like everybody, I mean, again, I'm very proud of Philip, who just decided to take upon himself that he was just engaged and actually sought this out, but there are very many disengaged people. So what I want people to do is, number one, sign up so that you stay connected with what we're doing, but also number two, say, listen, my church group, every Thursday we meet in the evenings and there's about 50 to 75 people there. Would you like to come and have something? Yes, great, I will show up, I will do this. And then so I talk to those people and they talk to people. So that is what I want, is for people to take it upon themselves to organize this, right? Arnie, again, thank you for doing this, right? So he was, I mean, I will be shocked if you have a spread as good as this. You don't have to have a spread as good as this when you do your thing. But similar to this, right? Just community events. That is what I would like people to do. We don't have time. November 7th, November 5, okay, is the election. Ballots are going to go out October 5. We do not have time, so we need to play catch up. So what I would like is people say, okay, Alex, you know, I have. This is also how you do ballot harvesting. You find, especially Armenians, right? You find your 25 cousins, aunts, uncles, okay? What we would like to do is say, okay, I'm going to be the precinct captain. I'm going to harvest these people's ballots in October when they come. And then you are that responsible person. And then we say, okay, Rita, go to your 25 people. I want those ballots now. And then you bring the ballots. Done. We're done. That is how you do it. There's 60,000 Armenians in the districts. Wow. But the turnout is usually only 25%. 60,000 will mean the difference between victory and loss for me.
Right.
Yes, Mike?
This Sunday afternoon, they're all over welcome, but where I'm inviting all conservatives to my home, doing exactly what Alex is talking about, how we can take back our local government, including the schools. We're going to brainstorm, okay? Ballot harvesting, write letters, letters to the editor. This last election in Glendale, they all came from Democrats.
Well, also, the letters together were published by the Democrat-leaning editors.
Right. But I look at it this way, and as a strategy, for example, if enough Republicans start writing and flood their inboxes, something is needing to happen. But most Republicans sit back and let somebody else do the hard work, do the lifting. Look, I'm going to get personal. Okay, I sent out a whole bunch of invitations. Did I get 100% response? No. I should have 100% response who want to come to I'm offering my house, my time, my money, and I'm not getting 100%. I'm getting some, but not 100%. Now, everybody has an excuse why they can't come and get involved with the election for the conservative movement. Right. You tell me, I'm sorry, how do you get people, exactly what you're saying, how do you get people to get involved when they say, I'm too busy?
So yeah,
everybody's busy, but they want somebody else to do the heavy lifting.
You have to find enough rage for them to overcome their inertia. And so what we're finding now is there are multiple different touch points. For one, for parents, for example, they say, why is my child learning social justice in school rather than reading, writing, and math so they can have marketable job skills and get a good job? There are people in Hollywood and West Hollywood who don't have kids, but they're saying, why am I paying $2,500 for a studio apartment? I walk right outside and there's a bum in a tent camped out on my sidewalk. There are small business owners throughout who say, why are there people smashing and grabbing things and nobody's punishing them? There are older people on fixed incomes who are saying, why has my electricity rates nearly doubled? Why is my property tax going up? I can't afford this, I'm on a fixed income. So we just need to tap into those. Listen, when the economy's good and there are no wars, people aren't going to vote. So they're happy, just keep the status quo. So it's also a matter of having the right timing, tapping into those nerves, and also, this is very important, don't wait for the right candidate. Be the right candidate. Be the right candidate. Do you think I need to do this? Right? I have a very stable medical practice where I did the work. I knew how to do the work. Yes, I worked hard, but it was work that I was accustomed to, right? And I lived a comfortable life. Do I need to do this? No. But I'm doing this for everybody here, because I've had it up to here, so have you, that I overcame my inertia. I had the expendable energy. I made the time. And so we also need to have these regular meetings, just where you just chew on the cud, but to have an incubator to recruit candidates, younger people who are not going to be, like Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about Jewish space lasers. You want somebody who is relatable. You want somebody who can get people jazzed up, but not rub them the wrong way. So that is also how you do it, is you have to recruit and retain the correct candidate.
Yeah, we're trying. In Glendale.
You, oh, he had to spoke.
Hi, my name is Rod, and first time I've been here, it's,
First time anybody's been to this.
Actually, can you tell us where you live?
He lives in, Tom, he lives in Maryland.
You know, in this area, okay, great.
and actually, I just inherited my mom's house, and we remodeled everything, so, I have a stake in this town, my sister still lives here. But I had a few questions for you, and just to kind of pick your brain with that is, I know the homeless problem is, it's just huge, but my question to you is, what can we do, or what can you do if you're elected to deal with the trash problem that a homeless brings there? Because it's one thing if they've got a tent on the street, but a lot of them leave, 50 pounds of trash all over the place.
Yeah.
And do we report that? And if we report it, who do we report it to? And how is that handled? Because that's a big problem right there.
For if people didn't hear, there are homeless people, they produce a lot of trash, whom do you call, how do you get them out? Also, in addition to the trash, they empty, if they live in these campers, they empty their raw sewage from those campers into the storm drains. That is not treated. So when there were recent rains, they said, the bacteria level in Malibu near the shores had gone up. And my question was, is that because of the runoff of all of these storm drains, where you had these homeless people in their Winnebagos, not going into the sewer system? For Sunland Tujunga, unfortunately, you are dealing with LA City. And that is a much bigger problem to rein in than, for example, Burbank City or Glendale City, okay? Which is why I tell people, yes, I would like to, from the federal level, start trying to reform schools and start trying to reform education. I would start something like Glendale Unified rather than LA Unified, just because it's much more manageable. We in the state have spent, I think, $24 billion and counting. We just approved a $6 billion bond, barely, by about 10,000 votes in the entire state, to throw more money into this dumpster fire that we call affordable housing for the homeless, okay? And so I will fix this problem because I will acknowledge the elephant in the room. Homelessness, the majority of homelessness is due to mental illness and drug addiction. And until we say that out loud and treat it like the medical condition that it is, we're not going to make any headway. So what do I want to do as a physician? Number one, reopen federal institutions for the very severely mentally ill people. I mean the people that are yelling at the sky, some of these people who randomly stabbed people in the metro, right? There's a grandmother, 60-year-old grandmother, who was killed with holding bags in her hand because this guy, unprovoked, just stabbed her in the neck. Floridly psychotic. Those people need to be placed in institutions. They need to be given their treatment until they are better, at which time they're then released to clinics in their neighborhoods. Now, number two, you need to treat the drug addiction. We were saying how right now there's a Supreme Court case deciding whether it's legal to criminalize camping. They call it cruel and unusual punishments. Why? Because if you are genuinely poor and you don't have a place, there's no shelter bed for you. You can't afford housing, there's no shelter bed for you, where are you going to sleep? You are criminalizing sleep. That's what they're trying to decide now. And so in California, for example, we have way too many homeless compared to the shelter beds that we have. That's why they're saying, we need more money, build, build, build. 40% of California homeless are not from this state. The biggest predictor of sobriety for drug users is family supports. Rather than building new shelter beds for these unsupported people to go into, where they have a very high chance of relapse, especially with all the fentanyl coming in unchecked from the southern border and from our ports. I can, from Congress, relocate these people, reunite them with their families, so that 40% of our homeless, relatively quickly, are sent back to their home states, reunited with their families, to ensure their sobriety. And that way you even out the lopsided ratio of homeless to shelter beds. And it's not incumbent upon California to build hundreds of thousands of beds. if there are empty beds, for example, in Iowa, that are not being used by the Iowa homeless that have come to California.
I have another question about, the community, because that's kind of what I'm hearing, because Sutherland Hundred is my home. But, how familiar are you with this area? And if you are, what do you see as a future business-wise for the area? Because, I'll give you an example. When I want to go out to eat, I don't eat here. I like a nice restaurant. I think I take my money and I spend it somewhere else. I think there needs to be more development of the right kind in this town. I mean, they're putting a Ross in right here in Sutherland, which is good. At least they're doing something. But I would like to see more business ventures where it actually turns this area around from what it is. What's your take on that?
So in answer to your question, I grew up here. My Armenian elementary school, junior high school, Shelburne, on Lowell and Foothill, right? I went to school here for 7 years, so I know this neighborhood. I've seen it change. As far as, restaurants and things opening, the business climate in California is so prohibitive. So prohibitive, right? So again, you have a floor that is your labor, right? Minimum wage, so you have to pay your workers $15 an hour. You have your rent, which is driven up by the increased property taxes. You have your business taxes, minimum $800 a year that California charges, even if you register but do zero business. You have all of your, unemployment insurance. So get this. So I, as an employer, have to pay unemployment insurance. I get it just for disability, anybody who loses their job, gets fired and the state gives them unemployment. When California forcibly unemployed the majority of its work staff during COVID for an extended period of time to prove a political point, not because it was based on science. And again, some businesses closed if you weren't a winery owned by somebody named Gavin Newsom, right? So to pay all of those people's unemployment, our great governor received a loan from Joe Biden. And so Joe Biden, in the fine print, said, the California business owners are the co-signer of this loan. So if you default, they will have to pay for it. Guess what happens to that loan? Gavin Newsom defaulted on the loan. So my unemployment insurance rate that I paid went up because of the terms of that federal contract that he signed that he told nobody about.
Wow.
Okay? So this goes to show you, we need to clean house from top to bottom. Okay? So when you have somebody, right? When you have a woman who's raising kids, another great example, the Portos family, right? That woman started her business from her home. People wanted to buy her pastries. She bought them. When it got too big for her home, she bought a place, right? She bought a restaurant, and they grew it. You cannot do that now. A housewife who bakes well, people say, oh my God, you sell these. She cannot do that now because of all the laws that are in place that prohibit people from opening up a business. So if you say, what's the plan for my neighborhood? LA City, the city council just said as bullet point number 8 or 9 to shore up their budget deficit, explore new revenue streams, meaning taxes. Glendale is already considering a new business, a business entry tax. So in addition to your yearly business license, a new business pays a one-time entry tax. Who's going to do that?
Right.
What is this main street tax?
In Glendale.
Glendale is increasing.
So again, Main Street tax, it's something that they're saying, it's like a mansion tax. So when I say mansion tax, anything that you sell over $2 million, for example, it's just, or increase in property taxes. So it's just one of the few taxes that they had mentioned in City Council in passing. And the Glendale Association of Realtors has tried to nip it in the bud by telling everybody about the Main Street tax. So there is no Main Street tax. They mentioned it once to try to shore up the budget deficits. But the Glendale Association of Realtors is trying to be aggressive and have people call in and say no to the Main Street tax. ironically speaking, which candidates did the Glendale Association of Realtors endorse? Right? Arnie Saki, who, based on his voting record, would vote for a Main Street tax. Yes.
We all know we've got big problems.
Yeah.
Budget deficit this year went from 38 to over $70 billion. You're running for federal office.
Yeah.
You have supermajority in Sacramento. How would you affect change on a state and local level? What is your plan to do that?
Okay. So my plan to do that is to be the better candidates. Right? So for better or for worse, the Republican Party has been decimated in California because they've been saddled, rightly or wrongly, with the reputation of being a bunch of old racist white men who hate gays and immigrants and want to chain a woman's uterus to the wall. That again, whether it's true or not, that is the messaging that the Democratic Party has successfully instilled in people's minds, right? So I am going to be the better candidate. I'm going to be the person who's not on the take for private industry, for example. So I'm going to be a small business owner, a physician in the community who's going to step up. I'm going to be that better candidate. If somebody calls me a homophobe because I don't think that 8-year-old kids should be learning about gender, I think they should be reading, doing reading, writing, times tables. If they call me a homophobe, I'll say, I'm not a homophobe, neither is my husband. Trying to. So those kinds of things where you, again, like look who, and yes, there was Larry Elder, right, who ran for governor, but you have like Brian Dolly, like there's the cookie cutter. I mean, I think probably the last one was Meg Whitman who ran, right? A woman running as a Republican, for example. So don't feed in to their stereotypes, which have caused us to have massive losses. Identity politics means something to some people. It's not my driving, it's not my driving principle. But I will play identity politics if that matters to a voter, and if that disarms them,
Right.
and it gets them to think about my policies.
So you're one legislator on the federal level. Again, we have a supermajority in Sacramento. You're the right candidate. Great. Okay, but do you have a plan to work with Sacramento or work with the Republican Party in the state of California to get the right candidates in place? Is that a plan?
Who's the Republican Party? Name me. Right. So the Republican Party is quite dysfunctional in California. Right. Okay. And let's think big here. Everybody says Alex, you're not going to be able to do this. Is a D plus 23 district. You know what else is a D plus 23 district? The entire state of California. What's happening in 20? So if we flip this in 2024, and we're an overnight sensation. Yay, Alex, you're one person. You're amazing, but you're one person. Let's open in 2026. The governor's pitch. Yep. Right? How many hateful Democrats are running? Many. How many likable Republicans do you even know of? You name. Right? So what I'm saying is, this is our opportunity. It's like returning a kick, right, on a football team. Yes, you catch it in the end zone. Either you can take a knee, the safe bet, get on the 20-yard line, or you can run, and I see a real path for us. But it depends on me being a non-traditional candidate. It depends on me appealing towards the sensibilities of rational people, non-progressive people. And there are a lot of independents, a lot of moderate Democrats who are going to hear this message. Actually, I'm guessing some of the Armenians in here are probably registered Democrats that don't even know it. But so this is how we do it. Not like, oh, what is the Republican Party doing? No. Like, tear it asunder, build it back up. We all agree. I think we all agree that both parties are rotten, right? They've not served us. It's just been more of the same, depending on who it is. We just need to recreate this entire system in our own image. And that image being the every man and every woman who has a job, who runs a business, manages their finances, balances their own budget. That is what we need. James, how are we doing on time?
7:49, so
7:40. Okay. Anna did well? Yes.
To your point, sir, I'm running for state assembly. And what me and Alex, from the day we met, we hit it off, right? Because we think alike. And the only way to fix anything is if we work together. So if candidates start working together instead of against each other, we can solve a lot of these issues, especially in California. Actually, we need to win 20 more seats in the Assembly in California to have a fighting chance against that majority that have out there. And the party is right, the party is dysfunctional. They focus on specific districts, pretty districts. Right? Other districts they don't really care about because they don't think they have a chance on winning. I'm going to use myself as an example. I was chosen to finish last in the race against Nick Schultz, Ellen, Mr. Ed, something, Ed Hahn. They spent, between the three of them, over $500,000 on their campaign against me. I didn't have any money. It was all word of mouth. It was all going to small groups, copying a few people here and there. The Armenian community supported me. They did most of my flyers, handing them out. I spent $1,500 on my campaign. So it's not about money, it's about us. Us, we can push it. This is a grassroots campaign. I don't want to depend on the Republican Party. I don't need their help. Right? Alex doesn't need their help, because we're not typical Republicans, number one. Right? We're kind of a little bit different in a lot of ways. And that's what we need. We need different. We need people that are able to communicate the message to everyone, not just the Republicans. There's no way I could have been going to November if Republicans voted for me, because not many Republicans voted. So it's just getting the message out, and we need your help. We can't do it alone. We can get to office, but without you, we're not going to be successful. And that's what we need to do it together, so that we can start making some changes in California. And hopefully in 2026, we have the right candidate for governor, because that's the key right there. Right? We need a good governor that when the Assembly passes the bill and the Senate signs off on it, and it makes sense for the state of California, not a specific group based on race, gender, or whatever ideology they want, based on what's in the best interest for all of us. So that San Antonio can grow, Burbank, Glendale, La Crescenta, we can all grow as a community again and be happy. So we have to work together, and I'm super proud of our money and he's running, because I know him and I will be able to work together and support each other through the campaign, and when he wins. So, we just have to
Check each other as a rebound. Because you've gone insane from the whole campaign.
I'll give you a discount too if you want.
Yes, Phil.
So just in response to one of your previous answers you gave, what article is in the Constitution like authorizes putting people into institutions or moving them across state lines?
Excellent question. So here's where, so there isn't one, but this is where we do, for example, standard of care with medicine. So in medicine, and what is my background? So yes, I'm a pulmonary specialist, but I also do research. I was an academic pulmonologist for a decade at USC. I write clinical practice guidelines. So what I do is I scour all the medical data. I identify studies, and so you say, okay, for example, does drug A prevent seizures in children better than drug B? And then you look at all the studies that there are, and then you pull all the papers together, and you say, okay, based on all this evidence, drug A is better than drug B, we should do drug A, even though it costs twice as much. I'm just giving that example as like, So there is due process, for example, okay, for somebody and their rights of habeas corpus, to have, their rights over their own body. However, in medicine, there's also capacity. So in medicine, it's that you have a diagnosable illness if you have something that, number one, shortens your lifespan, or number two, affects your quality of life. The example that I give is depression. You can just be depressed and that affects your quality of life, or you can be suicidal and that lowers your lifespan. So if you are so severely ill that you lack capacity, meaning that you are not able to describe what is wrong and how to remedy that, then you no longer have independent decision-making ability, so you are institutionalized until the underlying illness is treated and you are able to comprehend right from wrong. That's how somebody, for example, doesn't go to prison if they're mentally ill, right? So because they can't tell the difference between right and wrong, they don't go to prison. They actually go to a mental institution, so it's the same concepts. But these people, again, the crime, so to speak, that they commit is camping outside when there's a shelter bed that's available. So there's, what's the name of the homeless guy here? Patrick, yes. Allegedly, again, I don't know the details, but does Patrick have a home given to him by the city?
If you did,
Right, okay. So again, if Patrick doesn't use that, that is pathologic. So being on the street without shelter. If you're, for example, if you have crystal meth on board, and apparently he does drugs in the open, is that correct? So those are mental illnesses that need to be treated. A prison sentence is not treatment for those. Medication, for example, or cognitive behavioral therapy where he goes to sessions, but if he's unable to manage those himself, then he becomes essentially a ward of the state. So that his treatment can be given to him because he is a danger not only to himself, but also to other people. So those are ways that the due process can be bypassed is, are you a danger to yourself? Are you a danger to other people? If so, then that is your due process. Is if you're unable to discern right from wrong, then you will undergo treatment until which time you can do that.
Is there a local committee to determine that, or how's that?
Is there a local committee? So there are these care courts that they're trying to do, okay? But again, the care court is quite cumbersome. Any physician, a single physician, can determine medical capacity. You don't need an entire court. It should be relatively easy if the laws are there, but the laws are not there. Because what happens is these people in care courts, they don't have beds that they can go to. So they're not in a rush to say, okay, these people cannot take care of themselves because there are not enough hospital beds for them to go to. This is why I say for people who are severely mentally ill, reopen the federal institutions that used to be there until they were closed in the 60s, right? Everybody blames Ronald Reagan, he closed the mental institutions. He closed them, but there was a plan to open state institutions. So it was going to be unloaded from the federal institutions to the state institutions. The state institutions never materialized.
Money-wise, right?
Yeah, money-wise, they never materialized. So essentially, they were saying, okay, let's do Plan B, without ever having put the stuff in place for Plan B. But yes, there's medical grounds for you to do that. And that's why I, as a physician, am uniquely positioned to speak on these topics, where you can straddle danger to oneself, danger to others, and undertake these different strategies.
So Alex,
Yes.
answer my question,
Introduce yourself,
because
sorry.
you referred back to,
Sandra, by the way.
my name is Sandra, I'm 23 years in Tujunga. But you answered it in the sense that you referred back to the closed hospitals, those were federal. But then we used to have a hospital like Camarillo, was that a state or was that a federal hospital?
I think Camarillo was a state hospital, I'm not entirely certain.
But I think that even like developmental centers for children who are born with certain types of disabilities or families, it was very hard for them to care for them.
Yeah.
These places have all closed. And with the idea that they would be returned to the community, it sounds really great. So how do we get these people who have these special needs cared for within a reasonable distance of their home so that they can still be part of the family?
So we have enough money, we have enough resources, they are simply poorly spent. We have resources to train and hire therapists, to train and hire drug addiction counselors and social workers and case managers. We have the resources to reopen this. For example, if we didn't give full Medicaid to 750,000 illegal immigrants who are coming into this country, right? We can definitely use that money on things that matter to us. Like I said, a government, at its very minimum, should ensure the health, wealth, and security of its own citizens. We should not be promising full medical coverage to people pouring in through the border. So that is how we do it. Everybody says, oh, Alex, how you can pay for this? Believe me, there's enough money. You just need to call out from different places. That's why I love being Armenian, so tight-fisted.
How do we come to some kind of a middle ground with people who believe that this country should just, come and, we're going to take care of you? That's the message that they've received in their home country.
So
It's been marketed to them.
again, how do we find a middle ground?
Well, because we're so divided on some of these issues. How do we,
We are not so divided. Again, the message has to be said clearly, consistently, but also calmly. And it has to be something that carries weight. I'm not saying that we should never bring in any immigrants.
Of course not.
We should. There should be a transparent, predictable system that ranks them, much like you apply to a college. Where you say, okay, you get more points, you get higher on the list if you are younger and able-bodied, if you have a specific job skill that this country needs, if you speak the language and are able to integrate, if you don't have any crimes that you committed, not political crimes, but in your home country. So things of that nature where somebody knows, okay, I can rank high or not high, based on transparent requirements. And then you say, okay, we're going to let in 1 million people every year, 500,000 people, I don't know, whatever it is. Or you recalculate the score. So, for example, everybody says we are going to build the cities of the future, the electric cities of the future. The Bureau of Labor has a statistic, which is a ratio of, in this case, electricians, where you say for a population this size, how many electricians do you need? A ratio of 1 means it's completely balanced. In California, that ratio is 0.9, meaning that there's a 10% deficit of electricians for a population of our size. In LA County, that number is 0.72, meaning there's nearly a 30% deficit. And why should we wonder? When our kids aren't learning mathematics, multiplication, division, they're able to make TikTok videos on their 52 different genders and pronouns, right? But if you have an immigrant who is an electrician, who knows, and says, okay, I'm going to open up an electrician shop and do this, fine, let them in, right? So those are the things where we can retain and recruit immigrants if we have a predictable, transparent system that everybody plays by the same rules, okay? And you have a strong border where you don't get line cutters.
Well, I'm concerned, I have no problem with immigration. I mean, grew up watching my family immigrate.
Yeah.
And, but, as a former school teacher, I would be very much concerned about immigrant children coming in without their vaccinations, like the measles, the mumps, rubella, the long, the ones that have been around for a long time and do protect children.
Did you hear that there was an increase? I think a 30% increase in tuberculosis in California this past year.
Yep. Wonder why.
Wonder why? These aren't people who got sick domestically. These are people who brought it in with them. Right?
When my mother came, in fact, I just found her health card for
Right.
her.
When your mother came, she had to get an X-ray. She had to get a PPD place. She had to get a TV, right?
We're doing
Oh my God, more?
Oh, no, it's just.
No, I'm in the dessert. Okay, I didn't see. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, Ruby.
So talking about immigration, I'm an immigrant myself. I came here legally. I have an uncle, at 22 years old, he went to Switzerland. He's a famous architect. He passed away 5 years ago, 96 years old. He became a citizen at 91. He couldn't become citizen.
In Switzerland, yes.
Okay? He married a Swiss German lady.
Yeah.
He had 2 daughters. He took him, they won't make him citizen. Switzerland is tougher than here.
Yeah.
He ended up having an interview to be a Swiss citizen. He, like you said, they need to know language. He knows 5 languages fluently, the history of Switzerland. And guess what? He lived in a town called Blvd, which is right on the German border. The local people had to interview him. And the type of question they asked, you guys don't laugh. They asked him, because they live in a village, they asked him to show them how you milk the cow.
Wow.
To see how Swiss he is. Right? But this country, so they say are fair, we have an open arm, we have to accept everybody. And some countries, they can only accept if you have money. If you want to come in money and open a business. Portugal, this year, the golden visa is gone. Right? Most of Europe. Today in Portugal, if you want to live there and become citizen, you have to have $1.5 million and open a company and employ 10 people. So why we should be such an open borders the way we have today, and we have to accept people from all over the world. It's not sustainable, first of all. California has 750,000 illegal aliens. Newsom wants to give them, like you just said, health insurance at a cost of $3.5 billion. 2 years ago, we had a surplus of $100 billion. Today, we're underwater for $78 billion.
And those are, that's not 750,000 illegal immigrants. Those are 750,000 illegal immigrants between the ages of, I believe, 25 and 65, because incrementally they gave Medicaid to elderly people, and then they gave it to children up to the age of 25. So it's been building. Again, but in response to your question, we don't live in a vacuum, right? So maybe we should let in people from every country. Maybe we get a very large land mass, we should let in more people. What I'm saying is, this is a debate to have, and I'm happy to have it, but right now there is no system.
Yep.
Right? There's no system. So you have to develop a system, and then garner respect for it by eliminating line jumpers. And how you do that, you secure the border, you don't let people in willy-nilly. Okay, you tell them, here's how you apply, we'll put you on the list. Done.
There is a system, it's just it's not being utilized. Because
We have no system. There's no system.
there is an immigration system. We developed the country cannot handle the immigration status. However, California is an exception habits. I work at the Department of Homeland Social Services. I work in the medical section. And the type of people that jump the wall that I see, you even as a physician have no idea. Half of our office contracted some bacteria, we were out for 3 weeks. Yet we were not allowed to wear gloves or face masks. So, goes back to the immigration system. If they begin to take the book out, wipe the dust, and start exercising, there's a good immigration system. My family came here in 1968. My father had to establish a business worth $40,000 and employed 3 U.S. citizens. And that's how we came here. That's how we stayed. So there is the system, there are the laws.
Just has to be enforced.
It has to be enforced.
And again, the executive branch, right? The president. The executive branch doesn't make laws, the executive branch enforces the laws. That's what we learn in basic civics.
I mean, it hurts me to see, we have people that come to my office who have the latest iPhone, they put the translator app, and they demand from me. I'm a 41-year county veteran, and when I retire next year, I cannot sustain my livelihood. And I have no mortgage. So that irks me really bad. And I do want to see someone at a federal level of your caliber to change some of these federal regulations. Not just as a U.S. citizen, but as a Californian, I am sick and tired of this. Granted, I belong to a union. I am a union member. But that also was forced upon us. Okay? In 1983, I was hired as a county government employee. In 85, they shoved this union membership down my throat. Why? Because it was...
There was no right to work.
That's it.
There was no right to work. Well, yeah.
So as a federal representative, how could you have people like us that are the average citizens who pay their taxes, but yet they cannot afford to retire? I have Social Security, but I am told that I cannot have it along with my pension, one or the other. It's called the labor. Okay, so how would you remedy that?
Again, how would I remedy that? That was a very loaded question. So things come from the top, right? So you have to set the pace. If we ran this country like we run our own household, we'd all be better off. Okay? On a budget, but even still, just from a fiscal standpoint, on a budget and with minimal outside interference. Also, from an immigration standpoint, I keep the door closed. I keep it locked. If a stranger knocks on the door, I look through the people. Who are you? Right? I vet them before I let them in. And if there's somebody that I don't want, I can kick them out with a gun in my home, or else I call cops to deport them like ICE does. Okay? So this needs to be done. I don't know what intentions they have deep state, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into that, okay? But we're in this position because regular people with regular sensibilities are in their comfort zone and don't step out. One of my mentors said, the world is run by people who show up. And if we're not showing up, then the biggest piece of trash like Laura Friedman is going to run everything.
Build on what you just said about the example of the home. Introduce yourself right to the ground. Hi, my name is Eric. You live in London. To build on that, as the nice lady was speaking about very energetically, most of the immigrants that came here 50-some years ago, 60-some years ago, had to come with a business purpose, add finances, add prosperity to the country you're coming to. Yeah. And it's just like when you have your home and you want to let people in, I don't think you're going to let in nefarious people. You're going to want to let in the people you like, the top quality people, the people who are going to add to your life. I think back in the 70s, there was a immigration policy of a business purpose primary, and through that business, you can bring extra family members in. So you had to, you know, as we like to say, get your hands dirty and get your blood and sweat into it before you're given something, rather you earn something. What do you think about supporting at a federal level returning immigration to business purpose so we get the cream of the crop rather than the bottom of the barrel?
Again, this is one of those things where how I would do it, and I'm open to discussions, right? This is why you just get it in a committee in Congress, and you just do it on a table, say, okay, this is the system that we're going to do, and have people vote on it. So things that jump out to me, and I'm not reinventing the wheel. These are some things that Canada does. So again, if you have a marketable job skill the country needs, like, oh, we have a doctor shortage, we should, any doctors are wanting to bring them in, or like we have an electrician shortage, right? Something, I'll give you a perfect example. In 2022, California tech companies applied for and received 40,000 foreign worker visas because they couldn't recruit that talent at home. 40,000. Do we have 40,000 graduating seniors in high school? Absolutely we do, right? They're just not learning quality stuff. Yep. So, I mean, when you say, oh, we should have only, business purposes coming in, we should teach our own kids business acumen, right? We should teach them financial literacy. There are people who genuinely do have claims of asylum. They're escaping their life, right? My parents did. My dad worked for the Iraqi government in the Olympics, and then when Saddam came out, they went, right? Just grabbing whatever they could. They came here as refugees, overstayed their tourist visa, and they benefited from 1982 amnesty by Ronald Reagan. They were lucky, okay? But if there was a system in place like you have skills. What did my dad do? My dad, as soon as he came in, leased a fried chicken stand in San Fernando, which back then was barbed wires, gang town, everything. But the man didn't have his engineering degree. He said, what am I going to do? Cheap as chips to rent a fried chicken place. So the man learned how to make fried chicken.
Yeah, it's a business.
Right, a business, right? So, but do you necessarily mandate those? I'm not sure. I'm open to those discussions, but there should be something where we should be selective and bring in industrious immigrants who will respect our Constitution and will integrate fully into American life.
I just wanted to mention, we're talking about voting, we're talking about property tax, and I'm sure everybody here, the fact that they're here, we vote, but tell your neighbors and friends, the Howard Jarvis Tax Association has something coming up on the ballot to reverse the first successful attack against Prop 13, where now if the child inherits, they're taxed at market rate. And the more money we give them, the more money they waste. Right. You mentioned that $1 million house. My dad was probably paying less than $100,000 in taxes, property tax a year. The folks that bought his house are probably paying $800 now. So this is the system: tax and spend, tax and spend. Right. And I came up because the gentleman sitting here, Patrick Murphy's trying to fight the city of Glendale putting a bike lane through the wash by his house. And I got involved because they're doing a road diet on Lockerson Avenue from Montrose down to Oakmont, and they don't tell us. They're doing it on brand apparently. So this is,
No, they didn't tell you to shut up city council.
this is a cult, and, you know, like you said, natural gas is now the enemy. It used to say clean burning natural gas, and there's just money to be made, free money. So I'm gonna make sure if you have flyers, I'll go through my neighborhood, and I'm gonna spread the word on that tax thing, because what I understand is the state has actually filed a lawsuit trying to block that overturning of the Prop 13. They're very afraid of it, because that bill will also, that proposition will also stop them from doing other nasty things.
Yeah, so what happened, one of the, so there's ACA 13, it's crazy what they've done. So ACA 1 is to make it, to carve out exceptions for property taxes. ACA 13, what it does, it says, if you are gonna mandate, like Prop 13, that you need a 66% majority to pass a tax, then your proposition needs to pass with a 66% majority. That is what they're trying to do with ACA 13. And so it's just, it's crazy, but yes, we just need to get fired up and engaged. Arnie, you had a question?
No, I was just gonna start kind of 10-minute countdown, but I did want to step in. I'm the president of the Southern County Chamber of Commerce, so I had a couple helpful ideas. Restaurants suffering, businesses, federal level, California, the gentleman left. All politicians, if they communicate, we can assist each other and they can pass policy that helps each other, right? So there's federal grants that help small businesses that LADWP got. Southern Tujunga 311 app. If you want to get rid of a homeless, they have a great 311 app that works amazingly. I report it next to one of our businesses daily. Some people do report once and then forget about it. Use it religiously. It makes a difference.
What is it?
311. It's literally, you call 311 or you download the 311 app. As far as businesses go, we're surrounded by two mountains. We don't have high-rise buildings. We don't have pass-through traffic. We don't have tourism. So as a small business owner that's been here 25 years, we count on our locals to eat here, shop here. I'm sure half of you didn't even know we existed, or didn't even know we serve food. And that's normal.
Well, you just opened us a bakery also.
Yeah, we're opening a bakery where the Bonners was. So, you know, it's important to have relationships with politicians, but you need to come out to meet them. So I'm thankful for all of you for attending and coming out, because if you don't, you don't know. And then after the fact, after laws pass, after, you know, you have a homeless knocking on your door, and I always say, unless it's happening to your backyard, or a homeless is on your block, you turn a blind eye. And then it shows up in your house, and I go, oh, well, this can't happen. Oh my God, I'm an American citizen. I pay taxes. You shouldn't do this to me. Well, somebody do something. Well, he's only one person, right? And he's just, you know, giving up his personal life to become a public figure, which is sacrificing his personal life. As an individual that's been involved, it takes a lot. So I applaud you, Alex, So the key is, another lady asked, what do we do? How do we help you? Tell your friends, tell your family members. We have, for all the youth, not just Armenian youth. Armenian youth between 18 and 25 know more about car mufflers and what engine has what horsepower than they know their, you know, teachers and council members and politicians. And they don't vote. So if we can engage the younger generation to vote, I think we can make a difference.
Yeah.
So I'm hardcore son of Tujunga. I want to see our area grow. I want to see it everywhere. I grew up in Glendale, Horseman, Roseville, Glendale High. So then I moved here when my father passed away because I couldn't afford to buy in Glendale. Now you can't even afford to buy around here. You know, so there's a lot of federal issues that a lot of people don't realize. Something Alex mentioned. What can a federal Congress member solve for you or do versus what a city council member, what a state assembly or senator can do? And unfortunately, we have a state that likes to tax. And it's difficult to tell them not to tax or to limit the tax because they don't listen to you. Because it's kind of like free money. Like he said, run it like your house. It's hard getting politicians that understand that, okay, I'm a business owner. If I don't make enough money, I can't pay my employees. I need to cut staff. Not just taking a $15.50 minimum wage and making it $20. And now the McDonald's down the street that had 7 workers now has 4. And everybody's pissed off. Like, well, common sense, you know. So, thank you all for coming out. Alex, I'm going to let you. Does anybody have a burning question? Is there?
I don't know.
Yes, go for it.
So you mentioned that you might not be a typical Republican. So,
I think two major Republicans.
He's right, that's good.
So two major Republicans, what that means is, law and order, stay on my bank account, stay on my personal.
That's great.
That's two major.
in Washington DC, are you going to defend the Women's Right to Bodily Autonomy? Or, like, can you tell us about the views on abortion?
I think the government should stay out of it.
Yep. That's what I think.
Just stay out of it. It's a personal, emotionally fraught decision. Stay out of it.
So women should have access to that sort of thing, or should they not have access to it?
So I prefer to look at it from a medical standpoint, okay? So a pregnancy at any point during a woman's life actually increases her mortality, all other things being equal. So we should try to prevent unplanned pregnancies, because if a woman's going to have a higher mortality during pregnancy, which she does, there's very clear data to show that, we want to make sure that women don't have unplanned pregnancies. So what would I do? I would say, let's do research into finding more user-friendly, reliable, low or no side effect family planning, right? Let's maximize that, because for every one woman who has an abortion, there's a woman who doesn't have an abortion and has this upheaval in her life, has to interrupt her education, has to leave her job, doesn't have any childcare. So that question of, do you support abortion rights or restrictions? Number one, I think the government should stay out of it, and I think we should do more of a supportive role, preventative role to prevent any woman who isn't ready to get pregnant, to make sure she has that, access to that. And also, if she says, "Oh gosh, I would love to have a pregnancy if only I had childcare," well then let's focus on getting her access to childcare. So I think simply framing it as "Are you for or against?" doesn't really address the nuances.
So for women in Texas who need to get an abortion, in your view, government should stay out, they should pay for their own trip to California to get medical care if they need to?
So again, I'm not the tax government, right? And so what the Constitution says that whatever the federal government doesn't have the power to do, relegates the states. So I think every government, whatever government is, should stay out of it. That's my personal view, right? Stay out of it. Am I controlling the federal government? No. But if there was an abortion ban federally, I wouldn't vote for it. But does that mean that I control what Texas does? No, I live in California, right? I don't live in Texas. So that's why it's this fraud issue.
Okay, I guess I don't understand your, so if
I think he's being pretty clear.
It's very clear.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Well, are you asking if he's okay with a woman from Texas coming to California and getting an abortion?
So what you're saying
Is
is
that?
women from Texas has to come to California to show health care she needs,
Or I guess is the question you're asking, would I put into a constitutional amendment that a woman has a right to an abortion until the point of viability?
or whatever the threshold is, I don't know.
So that's the discussion that has come up, and this is why I say to the government, stay out of it, because in my lifetime, in your lifetime, with medical advances, viability will be 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So if that is enshrined in the Constitution, with time and medical advances, you will unwittingly place abortion restrictions in 6 weeks. So I think, just stay out of it. Stay out of it.
What did you have?
Talk about the Constitution. Do you believe that the Constitution was written to limit the scope of the government, not the scope of the people?
Absolutely.
In that sense, didn't Ronald Reagan say it best? The 8 scary words are,
I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
How about Arnie? What do you think about Steve Garvey? We
I
had a
don't know
chance.
enough about it.
I don't know. Do you
Right, I know, who knows enough about it? I don't know enough about it.
think? We'll try to get him up here.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like, I would like to, do I prefer him over Adam Schiff? Well, absolutely, I prefer, I think it's
I would do better.
But I don't know what the man stands for.
All right, one last question from our veteran.
Oh, Lord.
I assume everybody in this room is either independent or conservative. My question is this: how does a Democrat, mainstream Democrat, say illegal immigration is good for this country? Because it's ruining us right now.
I cannot claim to know what goes on inside their head, because I think I would probably be institutionalized if I did. So I'm not sure if there's going to be a segment of the population that doesn't agree with any say, I'm not there to attract that, right? I'm there to appeal to level-headed, reasonable people and explain my beliefs in very simple terms and get them out of my team.
All right, with that, thank you, everybody.
Everybody, don't forget to sign up so we can keep you posted.
there are t-shirts if people want them. T-shirts.
We have t-shirts, old t-shirts from the March 5 primary.
Are you part of this group?
Yes.
Who else?
It's a collector's item now.
Arnie, do you know his contact?